Listen, we're going to start where the whole country is starting today, and that is with Donald Trump's tariffs now in effect in Canada, Mexico, and China. So it's now a 25% tariff on Canadian goods, along with a 10% tariff on energy. That all came into effect at 12:01 Eastern. Now, Canada, we have hit back with counter tariffs, $30 billion worth of goods. Now, another $125 billion worth of goods in 21 days. Go Canada. Listen, our Prime Minister just spoke to the country shortly, or a few moments ago, and here's what he had to say as stock markets went tumbling.
So today, the United States launched a trade war against Canada, their closest partner and ally, their closest friend. At the same time, they're talking about working positively with Russia, appeasing Vladimir Putin, a lying, murderous dictator. Make that make sense. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Let's discuss, what do we make of Prime Minister Trudeau's response?
Well, that's interesting. Well, you guys obviously like it. I think the bigger question is, do we like that kind of strong response? And I think it depends on who you're talking to. I think if you were at that WWE event this past weekend and heard all of the Canadians, all 38,000 booing the national anthem for the U.S., I'd say they want a strong response. If you saw Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live this past weekend with the Canada's Not for Sale and giving the elbows up gesture, you know he wants a strong response. And I think it's fair to say that everybody on both sides of the aisle are full of anxiety and frustration. Ever since Donald Trump was inaugurated, it's just been an onslaught of nonsense with the tariffs on and they're off. And we want that strong response. But then if you listen to the people who are, have experience in negotiating, they'll say this is not the way you go about it with a person. You don't go strong with them. You are calm. You are thoughtful. You have a plan. The problem is there's a difference between what you want to do and what feels good. And what feels good is punching back and saying, you know what, Donald, not President Trump, so he said that? You're dumb. This is a dumb thing to do. It feels good. We want that. That's why we elect our leaders. We want them because we want that strength. When things get bad, we want someone who can stand at the podium and go, listen, this is what we're doing. This is how we're fighting back. But is it the best way to deal with it? We don't know because he's so unpredictable. So I don't know what the right response is.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, DJ?
I think it's just funny that the Wall Street Journal and Prime Minister Trudeau both had to speak to him like a toddler, where you're like, listen, you're a very smart guy, but this is a dumb thing to do. Like, he's not a smart guy. And first of all, I'm a comedian, and I try to never talk about him just because I perform in the States a lot, too, and I'm, like, not trying to rile people up, and I know people do like him, so... I always tread delicately there, but here I'm in Canada. I feel safe. I think we're all... I can say I don't like the guy, man. Bold statement. I don't like the guy, but I think no matter what, whether you come down tough on him or you're trying to be, nice and polite and Canadian, it doesn't matter to him. I think his brain is so addled. He's on to the next crazy thing that he's doing. It's like speaking to a toddler. So I miss the days when I would watch a politician on TV and I would be like, I don't fully understand what they're saying because they're very smart and I'm not.
Yeah.
And now I just watch and I'm like, I understand what he's saying and he's angry and I'm scared, Yeah. And so I miss the good old days when politicians were like something where I was like, they're better than me and I like that, I feel safe. Now I just feel like we're always on the edge of some calamity because there's a toddler at the helm of the biggest, most powerful country in the world.
Yeah, I get
it's scary.
That. What do you think, Kate?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about Donald Trump. The one thing we know about him is you have to appeal to his ego. So while I like the Canada Strong approach in theory, I'm not sure it's going to work with this guy. This is a guy who psychologists have said has an inability to subordinate his hunger for affirmation and has a complete intolerance for criticism. This is a guy who, according to the New York Times, in his first presidency, spent 7 hours in his bedroom watching media to see what people thought of him before he went to the Oval Office. So I think we have to really consider the headlines that he's going to see and know that those will probably have an effect on the triggers he pulls.
I hear what you're saying, but is appeasing him going to work for us in the end?
No.
It might.
No one thinks that playing nice is going to work with him because he doesn't know how to play nice, and he doesn't play nice with anybody. There's actually a lot of people who work with him who are saying, listen, his kids don't like him, his wife doesn't like him, the people who work with him don't like him. He's not a likable person.
Listen, Zelensky didn't play nice with him. That was a disaster, and I fully disagree with
They ambushed
J.D.
him.
Vance's treatment of him, Donald Trump's treatment of him. He didn't play nice, and what did the U.S. do? They pulled all aid out of Ukraine. Like, I think
They were going to do that anyway.
We have to be
They were going to do that anyway.
We have to be strategic about how we approach this guy,
I
and
think-
appealing to his ego may be part of that.
Here's the thing, the strategy is really hard. This is why being a world leader is extremely difficult in the era of Donald Trump, because he is so unpredictable, he's erratic, he says one thing, does the opposite. So it's hard to make a game plan when the goalpost keeps shifting in someone who has so much power. And I think therein lies the challenge. I think we do have to have, and why I actually really liked the way that Prime Minister Trudeau spoke to him, is because he said the key word: we must be united as Canadians if we're going to get through this. We have to be. Now, how do you unite Canadians? You have to believe. You have to believe in something bigger than just this feeling of being in an existential crisis. And let's get it straight. We are in an existential crisis. And what does any country who gets through anything hard, what do they have to do? You have to unite. So my fear is that while we have Justin Trudeau who's speaking to Donald, calling him Donald like a toddler,
Love that.
he is no longer going to be in office after this Sunday. Trudeau is leaving. So we are going to find ourselves likely in an election cycle soon. We're not going to have a strong federal leader for the next foreseeable future, which is why Captain Canada, aka Ontario Premier Doug Ford, he's got approval ratings through the roof because he seems to be the one person who's coming out. I can't believe I'm saying something positive about Doug Ford right now, but he is coming out as Captain Canada with a united front. So by definition, elections divide us. So the timing of all of this couldn't be worse. We have to stay united, and that means tough talk. Tough talk.
But in terms of Doug Ford and tough talk, do we think if Trump sees the headlines, Doug Ford says he'll shut the lights off, that's going to motivate him to stand down?
But he's not standing down anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if what we're doing isn't working, why not try to be a bit more, sneaky is not the right word, but strategic in terms of the way that we communicate
I think we
with
have
him.
been doing that behind the scenes. All these trips to all the delegates going down to Washington. What do you think they've been trying? Diplomacy. Even diplomacy, good old-fashioned diplomacy is not working.
Yeah, but diplomacy works when you're in the boardroom. Like, being strategic, a little bit sneaky is great when you're working with somebody in a very small environment where it's like we're at the table. But when you have to turn around and talk to the general public who's full of anxiety about what's going to happen, they want to see strength, and that is it.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're talking about. We need to see a leader. And you're right. When I was watching that speech with Prime Minister Trudeau, I was like, God, I wish you did not resign. Because you're right. It is that feeling, that sinking feeling of like, who's going to be the next person? Who's going to lead this country, especially over the next 4 years, where we're dealing with this person who is so unpredictable.
I want to leave it with that, which is he didn't resign. I believe he was pushed out. Canada, in this next election, whenever it's called, it's on us to pick the right leader. It is this is all about us as Canadians.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.